Welcome back to the channel. I'm the Rational Gooner, and it's good to have you here. And this is my immediate post-match reaction to West Ham 0, Arsenal 1. Match day 35 in the Premier League, and we got over the line. I'm not quite sure how that happened. I'm not quite sure what's just happened. That is probably the underlying emotion that you're going to get from most Arsenal fans at the moment. The game has only really been 15 to 20 minutes finished, and I'm still decompressing and trying to piece together and process what I've just seen, because the Premier League is supposed to be full of drama. We know that. The Premier League is supposed to be the best league in the world, and that's because of how competitive it is. Now, on paper, first in the table versus 18th in the table, you would expect the first in the table to win at a canter. But because it's this point in the season, because we're so close to the end, and West Ham are fighting for their lives, and Arsenal are going for their first title in 22 years. It's one of those games this season that is a defining moment. It's one of those games this season that before the match everybody was billing it as a possible relegation and title decider. And we've come out on top. We've come out with the 3 points. I'm a lot less emotional right now. I've had to compose myself because half an hour ago you probably would have gotten a lot of different reactions from me, and if I would have recorded this half an hour ago, there wouldn't have been much of a Rational Gooner left. So I've had to compose myself and become the Rational Gooner just for you guys, because you're going to get all these other narratives, you're going to get all of these other agendas. I'm going to say it how I see it. So let's talk about the game then. We went into it after the fantastic week that we've had, the 3-0 win against Fulham, and then getting through to the Champions League final midweek, beating Atletico Madrid. We went into this game with an unchanged team, so Arteta felt, as we probably all would have anticipated, unless there were some tired legs, unless there was somebody with an injury carrying it into this game, that he would have kept the same winning team, and he did. He kept the same winning 11. So we started with Raya in goal, Ben White and Calafiori in the full-back duties, with Gabriel and Saliba centre-back. The midfield three, all English again, of Miles Lewis-Skelly, Declan Rice and Eberechi Eze. Another Englishman on the right with Saka, Trossard on the left, and then Gyökeres up top. And the first half was so cagey, was so tense, was so nervy. It's very difficult to pick the bones from it as somebody that's not looking at it from a neutral perspective. If I was a fan of another club in the Premier League, if I wasn't an Arsenal fan, I'm not a West Ham fan, but if you're not a West Ham fan or Arsenal fan, you're going to look at that game and think, what the hell am I watching? There's not an awful lot going on here. The first 10 minutes, though, we almost overrun them. And if one of those chances had have gone in, it would have been a very, very different game, I feel. We had three pretty decent chances fell to one person, which was Ricardo Calafiori on the left-hand side. I think of all of the chances, the best one was his first one, where he's put through by a brilliant outside of the right foot ball from Trossard, who, by the way, was fantastic today. That's the best performance of the season, in my opinion, for Leandro Trossard. Take away his goal, his contributions in the game were absolutely pivotal for us, and he was a real outlet, as well as somebody that got himself into positions where you wouldn't expect a left winger to be there, and getting his foot in and winning balls and stopping attacks and then starting attacks again and being up there for them. So I thought he was so energetic today, and that ball to Calafiori down the left-hand side was just the start of his brilliant performance today. And Calafiori, you felt like, I think Gary Neville said it in commentary, you felt like if he was going to have a better chance of scoring, He had all of that space on to the goalkeeper's left, as you're looking at it, to the right hand side of the goalkeeper, where he could have placed it with his right foot, but he allowed it to go a little bit further and tried to use the outside of his left foot, which allowed the defender, I think it was Mavropanos, to just get in there and get a block in. Had that have gone in, I honestly think West Ham's heads would have dropped and we may well have had a comfortable afternoon, but that didn't go in. There was also a double chance, in fact, for Trossard in the first half, that a corner came in from the left-hand side from Declan Rice, and Trossard was all on his own at the back post, and his header was firm, but it wasn't headed downwards. It was headed to a height that if the goalkeeper was in that vicinity, it would have been a comfortable save for him. And in fact, he did reach a little bit backwards, but it was a good save from the goalkeeper. And it came back out, and it somehow managed to find its way back to Trossard. And again, he had another chance with a header, which hit the outside of the left hand post, or the right hand as he looks at it, outside of the upright, and comes back out again. So some real clear-cut chances for us to take the lead in that first half, and we just didn't take them. The second Calafiori chance came from a Saka corner, where he could have got himself on the score sheet. And again, West Ham managed to scramble it away, and they got through that difficult period. They suffered with the bulk of our shots and shots on target coming in that opening 10 to 20 minutes. After that, the game then became a bit of a stalemate, and we seemed to cancel each other out. West Ham got more into it. That lifted the crowd more, and the crowd got more into it, and you suddenly felt this is going to be a bit of a dogfight now. And as the halftime whistle came, going in at halftime, you thought, right, we need a reaction here. We need a bit of an injection of pace, a little injection of energy. You expect it from someone like Saka, someone like Declan Rice to drive us forward, but it just didn't seem to come when they came out for that second half. It's a shame about the injury to Calafiori. It wasn't Calafiori, it was Ben White. It was Calafiori that had to make way at half-time for Mosquera. A very bizarre substitution in the first half. I will talk about that Arteta decided to take off Ben White because of his injury, but instead of making it a straight swap by bringing on Christian Mosquera, he brings on Zubamendi. And you're thinking, oh, right, so does that mean Lewis Skelly's going to go right back? But he didn't. He kept Lewis Skelly in the middle, almost pushing him up into the 8 position in front of Zubamendi and giving him Rice's role and putting Rice at right back. Now, I understand from an energy point of view that you do want to have more of someone that can get up and down. And Rice, I mean, of all the players on the pitch, has the legs to do that. And Christian Mosquera is a very much a defensive thinking player. So Arteta was maybe thinking he was being positive by putting Rice at right back to keep that energy on the right-hand side with Saka. The problem with what you do when you take Rice out of the midfield is you've then put in a more defensive-looking midfield because you've got Miles Lewis-Skelly sitting in front of Zubamendi. And Zubamendi, yes, he's had a rest over the last few weeks, but he's been a really, really superb player for us, sitting in front of that back four, being that screen in front of Gabriel and Saliba. So you're not expecting an awful lot attacking-wise from Zubamendi. He will pop up with the odd goal, but he's not the type of player that's going to marauder his way through the midfield. So what we kept at right back, we then took away from our centre midfield. Yes, you've got the energy from Miles Lewis-Skelly, but to compare Miles Lewis-Skelly in the number 8 role to Declan Rice, there was a drop-off, and you could see there was a drop-off. So at half-time, he decides then to hook Calafiori. He took him off, he brought Mosquera on, put him at right back, stuck Lewis-Skelly back to left back, and then Rice back into the midfield. Now, that should have been the change all along. Except for Calafiori should have kept his place, let's be honest. We should have kept Miles Lewis-Skelly and Rice in the middle, and we should have just put Mosquera at right back to begin with, just a straight swap. But then you've wasted a substitution. I get why Zubamendi is on the pitch. You know, he's a calmer head. But when you're chasing and you want to get that opening goal, sometimes the logical kind of almost pragmatic decision is the wrong one. You've got to think about the attacking side of things. So further into the second half, because things weren't working out, we weren't getting through those lines. West Ham were growing in confidence more and more as the time ticked through, and they looked like they were quite happy with a draw. West Ham, they were wasting a lot of time in between plays. This is the tactic that Arsenal have been using all season, but not when we're drawing. We're usually doing it when we're in front. But West Ham were doing it because they were trying to protect the point that they had, because a point keeps them in the game. A point keeps them on Tottenham's toes, because they will have gone level on points with Tottenham. Although Tottenham still have to play Leeds on Monday, it still gives them a chance, if Leeds do get anything off of Tottenham, for West Ham to stay up. So you could see why they were wasting time, but surely it's hell for leather. You've got to go for the win. You've got to. I understand that once you do that, you leave yourselves open to an Arsenal counter-attack. That is the risk you have to take, and a lot of teams get found out and turned over, and a lot better teams than West Ham have had that done to them this season, in the Champions League especially. But just looking at the way West Ham were playing, it just felt as if they just didn't really want to commit too much forward. And that's when Arteta decided to start making changes. And it was after, I think, 65 minutes, he started to bring on the big guns that were on the bench. So you're talking Odegaard, you're talking Havertz. A little bit later on, Madueke then replaced Saka to freshen it up. So now you've got all these big-time players on the pitch. And ultimately, with 10 or so minutes to go on the clock, cometh the hour, cometh the man, and it was Martin Odegaard who created the opening, and he did a neat 1-2, managed to get himself into the box, squared up the defender, turned out, looked up, saw Trossard in space, played it to him. Trossard had a shot. Yes, it was deflected. Yes, it went in. Past the goalkeeper. It wasn't a true route into goal, but we will take absolutely anything at this point. And that was on about 83 minutes, So all of a sudden it's bedlam. I'm jumping up and down. I'm like, we've fucking done it. We've absolutely done it. I can't believe it. This is amazing. And then what we did was we decided to protect what we had. Once all of the euphoria had died down, all of a sudden you've got West Ham coming at you. And I thought, let them do it, because surely if we left somebody like Havertz and Gyökeres up top, left somebody further forward, if we win that ball and nick it, we can go on the counter and get another goal here. But that never seemed to happen, and I don't know why we didn't keep a couple of players out. Every time we cleared the ball, it was coming back to us, and it was inviting it and inviting it and inviting it. And ultimately, West Ham get a corner with, seconds. I mean, we're talking 2 or 3 minutes left of injury time. There's 6 minutes on the clock of injury time. The goalkeeper's up. There's absolute bedlam in the box. Everyone's pulling and pushing each other. And the ball comes over from the left-hand side. Raya gets a hand onto it, and it looks like he wants to catch it. But then it drops down. It gets cleared out to a West Ham player. I think it was Wilson. Wilson strikes the ball. There's 2 Arsenal players behind the line. I think it's Rice that gets the block in, but the ball's over the line by 2 yards. Referee looks at his watch, sees that it's vibrating, goal given. And this is where the controversy comes, because Arsenal are now hounding and surrounding the referee. Arteta's given it the whole, touching his arm, saying, look, Raya's arms have been pulled down here. If he's not challenged, he will have caught that ball. And it wasn't a fair challenge. So, Sky Sports are then sort of going over the replays, and it's like Gary Neville's like, well, I think he's got a case here. Wilson's got his arm over the keeper, or whoever number 19 is, because that's who ultimately got penalised. And he's got his arm across Raya, and Raya's arms are up, okay? But what we don't see behind it, so the view behind, the camera behind, is actually showing that Raya's shirt is also being pulled. So not only is both of his arms being kept down by somebody else with their arm across his chest, but they're also pulling him back on his shirt. Now, other people will start to chime in on this and say, well, what about all the other fouls around Raya? What about all the other Arsenal players that are committing fouls around Raya? Now, these are 6 of one, half a dozen of the other that we see all the time in every box in the Premier League. If any of those fouls are given, then all the other fouls of the Premier League this season should have been given as well. So none of them really are valid. It's what happens to the goalkeeper, because the goalkeeper is in the position to catch the ball and he's impeded as he tries to catch it. Letter of the law, that is a foul. I'm going to get a lot of disagreements from West Ham fans. I'm going to get a lot of disagreements from rival fans, mainly ones that are affected by the fact that Arsenal have won the game. Fair enough, all right? Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and that's why football's so subjective, because you can look at it both ways. But from the perspective that I'm looking at as somebody that used to play in goal, if that happened up the other end, I'd have no complaints. And it's easy to say that because we've won the game, but we've had that done to us before. We've actually done that to opposition goalkeepers before, and they've been chalked off. All right. So, and I've never had a complaint about that, because as soon as you start messing with the goalkeeper, you will leave yourself open. And the referee, yes, he took his time looking at it. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you've got to be looking at it just to make sure that you're getting the decision right. And this is a decision that's going to affect two teams and the wider Premier League in general. It is the decision of the season. This is the defining moment. So if they get it wrong, who's going to come at them? PGMOL, the FA, every pundit around the country. But the fact that they've got that decision spot on, and they took their time to make that decision, they added enough time at the end as well, the goal was chalked off, and they had absolutely the right reason to chalk it off. If I get a backlash from other fans, please do add a comment, tell me what you think, all right? I'm being rational here, and I'm saying that if that happened in the opposition box and that happened to the goalkeeper of any other team that Arsenal are playing against, I'd have no complaints if they chalked it off. Doesn't matter how long it takes to look at it. It doesn't matter what route you're taking to get to that decision. If you make the right decision, then that's all that matters, in my opinion. There's a lot of these people that say, oh, it can't be clear and obvious if you're looking at it 5-10 times. Stop, all right? They have to be sure in this case. This is the biggest decision, let's be honest, of the season. It's the biggest decision. It decides whether West Ham ultimately get relegated. They now need snookers. They need Leeds to win tomorrow night. They also need to best a Tottenham result in the future as well, because they are right in the bollocks, right in the shit. And of course they're going to be, especially with the timing of it as well, because it was in the last minute, because there's not going to be enough time after the decision's made for them to mount another attack. Well, they did put it in our box a couple of times after. It's that whole moment, that's make or break on their season. And I do feel for West Ham. I feel for their supporters. I do. It's not a nice situation for them to be in. And of course, us winning means that it helps Spurs. Of course, I have that in the back of my mind. But we're going for the title, so there can't be any. There's all's fair in love and war. Unfortunately, we've took the 3 points today. We're going to get a lot of hate for it. There's going to be a massive backlash, and I know there's going to be a massive backlash. We've had it all season. But we're 5 points clear, 2 games to go. Man City have 3 games to go. They have to match our results going into the final game. Otherwise, they've got no chance of winning the title. The pressure's now back on Manchester City. I'm delighted. I'm absolutely delighted. We've got the win. And that's the only thing that matters, is the 3 points, get through that 3 points, now on to Burnley at home, and then on to Palace away. Let's not look past Burnley. The only focus now is Burnley at home. Massive game, and if Man City drop points against, it escapes me who they're playing, I'm sure you guys are screaming at me, Bournemouth away. If they drop points at Bournemouth away, in between their FA Cup final, we could be going into this Burnley game thinking a win might see us through to the title. And that's all we've got to think about now is Burnley. Thank you very much for joining me. I've prattled on for nearly 20 minutes again. I don't understand how that can happen, but there you go. Barely been able to draw a breath, just like the last 10 minutes of that game. Barely enough time to draw a breath. I'm very emotional. I'm trying to be rational. But decompressing after a game like that, it's going to take time, but I needed to get this out there as soon as possible. I'm so glad that you've joined me this afternoon, and I hope wherever you are that you have a great rest of your weekend. And please do like and subscribe, do whatever you feel necessary, and also get into the conversation, add a comment. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.